So you're brand new to Flesh and Blood, you're not too sure where to start. Well, I have some online resources for you guys to check out, and hopefully it will begin your journey into Flesh and Blood on the right foot. Welcome on in Dragonfolk. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I know I am. My name is Ashen Wings, and I've got a pop filter now. Hopefully this helps with any issues that might be occurring with audio. I've had a couple people come to me and talk to me about that, so just let me know whether or not this is actually helping. Luckily, it looks like it might be. I did some testing, and it sounded okay to me, so hopefully it comes out okay for you guys as well. Anywho, today, as you can see, we are going to be talking about something that is pretty awesome, okay? As I was starting to get into Flesh and Blood, right? The game that I'm slowly but surely starting to get more into, I have come across plenty of resources for this game. Plenty of them. And I want to talk about a few that maybe all of you might want to utilize for your, introduction to the game. Now, do I plan to do a how you play Flesh and Blood video? Yeah, theoretically I do, but I feel like that is been done already. Plenty of creators have already made their mark, and I feel like me making a video that 1,800 people have already made a video on and probably have put a lot more time and effort into, I feel like that would be the better thing to check them out. But more importantly, you'll be able to check it out in one of these resources that I will provide. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about some databases, right? So finding out what kind of cards exist, maybe if you're trying to research cards, maybe you're trying to research a deck that you want to play and you're just like, oh, I heard about this hero, I'm not sure what to play, how to play it, what cards are good, what the cards do in the deck, how to properly utilize it. Let me introduce you to FabDB, or Fab Database is what they call it. So Fab Database is just an awesome hub, essentially, for everything you might need to know to research the cards that are in Flesh and Blood, as well as deck ideas. So you can make your account, and you can even register decks here. So if there's a deck that you wanted to build, maybe you want to upload your deck that you're using currently, and then you can make changes to it as time goes on, you can always go ahead and do that. But this is where probably most of you will be brought to look at any of the cards. So you'll see up here at fabdb.net is where you will find this. I'll leave the links to everything that I'm talking about in the description down below. But we're going to talk about cards. You can go to the cards tab and click browse. It'll show you all the cards. It's got every card that's ever been printed in here in whatever form. You can always go ahead and search for specific cards such as silver. And now you have a bunch of stuff that has silver in its name. So anything that would be the case, that includes stuff that's in the text box too. There is a syntax help button here, so you can find out what kind of cards you're looking for specifically. So for instance, you can do any of these: T equals or type equals, class equals. So you can even do something like class equals wizard. And we'll show you all the wizard cards. So this allows for any card that is wizard specific. This will not include the generic cards, it looks like. So obviously, if you want to do that, you can always go ahead and hit generic. And all your generic stuff will come up in here too. So great tool to be able to find cards that you know you're going to want, and to do a lot of research on stuff too. Also in here, you have the deck tab. Now this deck tab is where most of you will probably go. If you go to browse, you can look amongst all the heroes here in the select hero thing. Even Arachne, the new hero that just came out in Dynasty. You can find any hero that you want. Let's say, for instance, we'll find Fi, right? Now, Fire Rising Rebellion is obviously the constructed version. If you wanted to get the Blitz version, you just choose Fi instead of Fire Rising Rebellion. And then you can go ahead and sort it by order, newest, all-time popular, or last 7 days popular. So you just go ahead and hit that search and bam. You've got every Fi deck that's happened. They've got cool little things such as competitive, casual. This is where you can find them. So like if you specifically want to find competitive decks for this, you can look up every competitive deck that's new, added in here. Normally the newer stuff is going to be the stuff that has won current tournaments. So keep in mind checking those out. So for Fi World, let's go ahead and just click on that. That will bring us to a deck list. It'll show you all of this stuff here. It'll show you any metrics and performance that it's got. Obviously, it's got 80 cards. This is what it's composed of, all these different graphs. It's got a 53% win rate. I'm still not sure how this is calculated. I'm assuming you have to register this and like find out what this is, but this is a 53% win rate for this deck, so that's pretty good considering. And then, of course, the raw data, of course, is right here. So back to the deck, you got all this. There's a rulings tab, so any rulings that might have to do with this deck specifically, you can find here too. And with this deck, you can look over everything in here. So it says 71 cards in the main deck, but of course, you will be, you have these little things here. This is the sideboard in this little area. So if you, for instance, saw something like Command and Conquer, but you saw the sideboard, it showed that you'd sideboard these and then use them only whenever necessary. So according to this build, you would have Flamescale Furnace all the time, Mask of Momentum all the time, Snapdragon Scalers, and Tiger Stripe Shuko as your main loadout. And then depending on who you're going against, you can use Tunic, Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, Null-Rune Gloves, or Tide Flippers. So all great things to be utilized here. And this is where you're going to kind of find a lot of the stuff. A lot of times people will have their decks out, and these decks will have these here, right? There's a description you can put in for any of these things, such as sideboard guides or what to best play versus certain things. So for instance, right, Null-Rune Gloves, Null-Rune Robe, Tide Flippers versus Aggro, Phi-Katsu Dorinthia, +3 Salted Wound, +3 Sink Below, versus Control Oldhim Icelander, minus the null runes for Icelander only, yada yada. So this is what you do versus aggro. This is what you do versus control. This is what you do versus Runeblade. This is versus Dromai. This is versus Kano. This is versus Bravo, yada yada. So a lot of people who do a lot of testing will keep this on here. So it's almost like a perfect sideboard guide, which is really, really what you want, to be honest. So something to keep in mind there. And then, of course, you can also go to My Decks, and you can put in your, information. You'll find a My Decks thing there. And these are also the starter decks. These are the official starter decks that they've imported in here. So you can always go ahead and this allows you to kind of show where these are. You can buy them. These are all CC, I want to say. But of course, you can find these online anywhere. But the cool thing is the decks, right? Being able to look at these decks, find out what's there. There's also a nice featured tab to show off anything that might be featured. They do some articles essentially on these heroes to show kind of what is in the meta right now, what's doing okay, what's doing not okay, so on and so forth. And we've got them for several, right? Tournament, commoner, casual, latest decks. There's tons of stuff to find on FabDB, so I definitely recommend checking this out. The next one that we're going to talk about is Fabrary. It's kind of a lot like FabDB. It's fabrary.net, and this is essentially the same deal. You have a bunch of cards to look forward to. You can upload your decks here. So you've got decks that you can search by. You can do them based on specific things. You can make them tournament decks. You can filter by Classic Constructed. And you can find a bunch of these decks located here. It'll tell you where where they played, what place they've played in, their general build. There are also different little tabs here for playing these things on Talishar. And we'll get to Talishar in a little bit, but for right now, just kind of take a look at all this. It's very, very cool. Rob Catton's World Championship Top 8 FI deck. So if you wanted to just copy a World Championship deck, you can do that here on Fabrary. All these options, it tells you every loadout, every little bit about it. It might not tell you things like what the general idea is of what to side for what. I think a lot of that you kind of have to learn on your own. This is neat. It gives you a sample hand size of 4 to kind of show you what like a general hand size would be normally for this. It does also show you the price tag on TCGPlayer, so that's kind of neat. This deck costs $870, so obviously pretty powerful. But you have things like Flame Scale and Find Dolls and whatever. But we're not going to talk about the deck. That's mainly a thing here. There's also stats. You can look at some stats here for games played. Looking at all these other stats and such. Any living legend points that may have just happened, right? You're going to look at all these. So for instance, this is the updated of all the living legend points. This shows you who is living legend in Classic Constructed right now. You can view it for Blitz. And it'll show you all the Blitz ones and show you who's in living legend for Blitz too. So Fabrary is pretty cool. There's also a little tab on Clash. Clash is a new format that's coming into Flesh and Blood, and hopefully it goes off because it seems like it's pretty cool. So you can check that out if you want over on fabrary.net/clash. Now we're going to get into probably my favorite part of everything, which is actual playtesting. So both of those are databases that you can go to and show off, you figure out what your deck is going to be, make a deck list for yourself, and that way you can kind of utilize that. You can go online on your phone and find it. That way you're not pulling up a different list every now and again, or you have to find somebody else's deck. You can essentially just copy the deck, put it as your own deck, and then make sure to buy the cards correctly, right? But before you buy those cards, you should probably playtest your deck. So that is why things like Felt Table exist. Felt Table is a fantastic little thing. It's just felttable.com/fab. And this is a wild, wild thing. I don't know the group in charge, the Felt Table team, but they have done a fantastic job in setting up smart AI that will battle you with a deck. And you can utilize a whole slew of decks. You've got Quick Match available. And for instance, you can add a new deck simply by taking the FabDB or Fabrary deck list URL, pasting it in here, and adding it to the game. It'll come up right here in the My Deck section. Then you can take a look at it, find out all the stuff that's in the deck. You can edit the deck if you wanted to and take out anything that you might need to. Then, of course, you can save and close. And you'll be choosing this as player 1 if you want to play that deck, so you can select P1. And then whatever deck you want your AI to play, you can play any of these pre-made decks down here, but you can also upload decks from FabDB and Fabrary, like this Viserai Runeblade Ritual deck that is rocking places right now. You can go ahead and make this P2, and now you can go against an AI that's using a highly competitive deck, and you can test against them. Now, the AI does really well. In most situations, the AI knows what to do, what to block, when to block, how to pop their combos off, and so on and so forth. But of course, the human brain is going to be a lot better in regards to this, in figuring out, the combos, what to block with. Should I block? Should I not block? Do I take the damage? The AI does not have a confidence meter, so it's not like you can plug that into there. So going against an AI is pretty straightforward, right? You're not guaranteed. We'll just go ahead and click the start game here. So you'll see here, you're able to just play, right? You're able to play the game as it is. You've got your cards in hand. It's got your loadout for you. and you can just play your deck. So it's very fantastic. You're able to kind of figure out what you want to do as far as like, what you're going to try and attack with, kind of test your combos out, see what kind of things your deck might run, what it might not run. Maybe you're trying to see whether or not the combos work out for some of the new stuff that's just come out. This felt table is really, really awesome for figuring out. They get the stuff uploaded almost immediately. The second things are spoiled, they try to upload that stuff onto Fab, and they code it. They get it all in there, and it is up by the time this happens. So it's very cool, and you'll see it just plays regularly like everything else does. So just make sure to watch this little box, and it'll show you how to play this, so on and so forth. You hit pass, yada yada. So that is the general idea here. I am going to close out of this, though. You can also choose play mats to choose to play on, so that's really cool. There is a way to exit, I think, but I don't know off the top of my head. The way to exit is just to go back, right? Because it's all AI generated. You do not play against players on here. It's all AI. So if you wanted to just test out your combos, see how your test hands are, this is going to be a great way to do it. If you wanted to test out a hero that you've never played before, this is a fantastic way to do it. And there's also sealed and draft. But in order to do those, you should support them on Patreon. So this will pop up if you try to do any of these. It'll show you. You can become a Patreon member for $4, and you can test out draft and sealed for the sets that have those. I'm not too sure how well they work out because I'm not a Patreon member right now, but to have this available to you, it's going to help you on limited nights if you plan to do limited for Fab. And it's, again, against bots. So it's much like playing the quick drafts on Magic the Gathering Arena, except you're not going against real people. You're going against bots. So take it as you will, but it's still a fun way to test out, make sure you're comfortable with something, and you don't have to interact with another person yet. More importantly, for those of you who are new to the game, I need you to keep this in mind. There is a Learn to Play button here, and I'll go ahead and show a clip. It is a voice-acted, step-by-step, highly defined Learn to Play session that you can do on your own time. It's fantastic. They teach you everything about the basics of the game. They teach you about the go-agains. They teach you about Intimidate with Rhinar. They use the new classic battles with Dorinthia and Rhinar, and they utilize that to show you what the decks are like, how to properly go through the phases, and you, of course, can, once you've learned everything, attempt to beat Rhinar at the end of it. It'll then give you a few things to check out, such as checking out the new Ira decks, or really the old Ira decks, I should say. And it's a great resource for new players. I'm going to be honest, for those of you who are learning to play, you can watch a video of the several videos that they have out with DM Armada, Red Zone Rogue, Sloop Troop, I think, has one. Tolarian Community College has one. Just about every one of these creators has created a how to play Flesh and Blood video, but this is great for those who learn hands-on. So keep that in mind if you are looking to try out and play some stuff. It's very, very great. I highly recommend it. Obviously, I've been showing you clips of it this whole time through, so it's definitely worth your time. Next on the list, we have Talishar. Again, this is probably where a lot of the big playtesting happens aside from in person. And that's because Talishar, you are able to go against other players. Unlike on Felt Table, where you only go against AI, you go against players on Talishar. Now, there is a single player mode that you can use to go against a training dummy that essentially you can just throw stuff at and attempt to block certain things and yada yada. But a lot of what is going to go on here is going to be through testing against other players. And the UI for this is super, super great. You can choose any of these beginner blitz decks or CC decks, and you can just go ahead and start up a public match and try to find somebody, right? Or you can choose your own deck link. You can put a link in from FabDB or Fabrary, and you can post it in there, and that will be the deck that you'll use. You can create a game name or number, and that will be for, people who are searching for your game. You can then also make it private, and you can only show people specifically how to get in, right? I'm sure there's a password system going on there. And these are the games that are going on in public right now. So there's a Classic Constructed going on for Join Game. Competitive CC, this game right here, you can join that as well. And you can just join people who are looking to jam games. This is, again, much akin to Arena. You're able to just go against other people. And this is not a competitive way to play Flesh and Blood, for the record. This is all unofficial, and it's testing specifically for players. It's still in its very early stages, and it is being tuned every single day. But this is how a lot of people get a lot of testing, a lot of playing done, simply because they have access to, all the cards on here. Same deal. You copy a deck in, you post it here, you play it. The other cool thing is that down here at the bottom, you can see that there are games to spectate as well. So, for instance, if you wanted to see what a Bravo versus Reinar game is like, you can click spectate. Oh, the game doesn't exist. So if the game doesn't exist, it won't show you. So how about Briar versus Dromai? Let's go ahead and spectate that. So now you get to see what it's like. You're now watching other people play the game. You don't even have spectate available on Arena, right? That I'm aware of. But here you can show, there's also a little text box here that shows you what happens during what things. To be fair, spectating games is very much so more for the advanced player, because as a new player, you're probably not going to know what's happening when and how. But this is a good way to kind of look over what combos might be like, seeing things like comboing stuff off like Chromai and Snatch, and any damage that might be going off. It'll show down here what the player does. So, for instance, the player 1 blocked with Snatch. So it'll show you how that worked out, what cards go into the grave at the end of the turn, what cards are doing damage, what cards are chaining with one another. It's very, very great. And then at any point, you can go ahead and just go back to the home page, and you can pop on over here, and you can go back to doing exactly what you were doing previously. So it's a fantastic way for you to learn the game in a way that is so incredibly beneficial that I don't think you fully grasp how necessary this is almost. There is another way to play, but I do not unfortunately have it set up right now. But you can play on Tabletop Simulator. Tabletop Simulator is a Steam game that you can get, and for free you can download a map of sorts, and that map will allow you to import your decks with certain programs, and then you'll be able to use those decks on Tabletop Simulator to go against your friend. That's a little bit more intricate with the UI. There's a lot that you as the player have to tick down, and not so much that is automatically done, like on Talishar or on Felt Table. But all of those are great ways to test out the decks and test out really anything that you're attempting to play. So overall, it's a fantastic choice to go over and get something like this. I mean, these, again, will all be in the description down below for you guys to check out. I know this has been a long-winded video, and it probably didn't need to be as long-winded as need be, but I wanted to show you all the best ways to go about testing these things. I'm still brand new to the game, but what I love most is being able to test out what my deck is going to be like before I actually buy any of the cards. If you're looking to go, you know what? I don't know, maybe I'm not sure whether or not I should splurge on that Findel Spring Tunic. Or maybe I should see whether or not I really need Crown of Providence for my deck. You can always go ahead and test it on something like Felt Table or Talishar, or Tabletop Simulator if you've got a friend to play with. You can always go ahead and test it on any of those, and you will be able to know whether or not it works for you. For instance, I was testing Flamescale Furnace with my Dromai, I was told by everybody at my locals that Dromai was fantastic with Furnace, not necessary for you to play, but the amount of power she gets while having Flamescale Furnace is so much better than if she doesn't. So I went, well, maybe I should buy the $90 card, but I'm not entirely sure if that's what I want to do yet. You know, I don't want to buy Magic products as of right now, so should I really drop money on cardboard that's only for one piece of equipment? And after some testing, some playing around, yeah, it was a great investment. And you fantastic people here supporting the channel made it happen. So I want to thank all of you for continuing to support everything that is this channel and myself. And I really hope that today's video helped you learn a little bit more about how to find new things in Flesh and Blood, how to better build your deck, how to do research on the cards, how to even go about testing your deck on things like Talishar and Felt Table. And the more you play and the more you get the hang of it, the more you are going to be a better player. Because Flesh and Blood is very intense in the way that the more reps you get in with playing, the better you become as a player. It's not about the amount of money that you spend on your deck, although if you are looking to do hyper competitive play and you're going against somebody else with those high cost legendaries, you are probably going to want to get high cost legendaries in order to, go toe to toe with somebody like that. But if you are not in the financial situation to buy any of those cards, don't worry about it, okay? There's plenty of other things for you to do in Flesh and Blood than to play the hardcore competitive format. There's Blitz, there's Commoner, there's Ultimate Pit Fight, there's Clash now, there's tons of stuff for you to do. And as long as you find joy in one of those things, and maybe one day you get a raise at work, or you get some birthday money or something, you can use that on legendary equipment for the hero that you want to play. And more importantly, you can take the time while you're waiting for that money to learn what hero you want to main. Because there's a lot of heroes and a lot of different ways to play these heroes. So learning what different mechanics exist, that's what's going to make it a lot better in really building the confidence to know that, yeah, this card is definitely something I'm going to want. This card is going to be something I'm going to need. And I hope that as time goes on, you all can become fantastic players and, continue to enjoy the game as need be. And I just want to say thank you all for allowing me to cover stuff like Flesh and Blood. I never thought that so many of you were going to enjoy this small addition to our regular Magic the Gathering talks, but I'm very happy to have you here, and I'm happy to be a part of the Flesh and Blood community and continue to bring joy and information to all of you. So now that this has gone on for way too long, thank you all so much for watching. And let me know if I've missed anything in regards to some awesome, resources for new players to use, maybe even advanced players to use. Let me know in the comments down below. I'm still pretty new to this, so if there's anything you advanced players or nationals players or whatever know that I don't, feel free to leave it in the comments down below. And while you're down there, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel as well if you have not already. And I will see you all very soon. Nerd out.